This boy wears an eternal frozen mask. Pain brings no tears and joy yields no smiles. He cannot feel. Others recoil in fear, branding him a monster. To them, he is the ghost of District 17, a soulless phantom. Little do they know, his silent world is vibrant with mana. He sees the hidden, glowing spectrum of the universe. This vision allows him to trade mana-rich scrap for food from a massive golem, a secret path to survival. But scavengers grew jealous. A glutton named Joe led a gang to steal his hard-earned rations under the moonlight. Joe had been humbled before, yet returned with 7 thugs. Armed and desperate, they sought to crush him tonight. Joe lunged with brass knuckles, but Day moved like smoke. A swift sweep, and the bully tasted the dirt. One punch silenced their leader. Enraged, the lackeys charged with weapons drawn, screaming for blood and immediate vengeance. Day's reflexes were superhuman. He danced through their strikes, dropping another thug with a brutal, lightning-fast elbow strike. In seconds, the gang was decimated. Joe begged for mercy, then pulled a hidden dagger in a desperate gamble. His hands trembled violently. He had violated the sacred law of the slums, and his soul sensed impending doom. Day saw the truth, the obsidian mana of terror leaking from Joe's heart. Fear is a dark, suffocating color. With a cold strike, he shattered Joe's leg. Day then vanished, returning to his makeshift home under the bridge. Pear, the group's protector, welcomed him. The younger orphans swarmed Day with pure, innocent affection and radiating warmth. They gathered around a dim lamp, staring at their pathetic harvest. Tonight, hunger was their only constant, cruel companion. Then Day revealed his bag of spoils. The children gasped in awe. Their silent hero had provided a true miracle. Pear distributed the rations, but Day slipped away. There wasn't enough for everyone, and he chose to endure starvation. A year ago, these orphans pulled him from a frozen grave. Now, he lives only to repay that debt. His stomach growled in protest. Pear noticed and insisted they share a small, precious crust of dry, stale bread. Under a torrential downpour, Day targeted District 18's warehouse. The guards were distracted by gambling and their greed. He breached the perimeter through a hidden gap. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of stored mana. He summoned a tiny mana flame to light the dark. He wondered, could emotions turn this spark into a sun? Suddenly, a blade whistled through the air. Day tilted his head, but the steel grazed his skin, drawing blood. "Caught you, little rat," the guards roared. They were shocked by the boy's impossible reaction speed and agility. He realized too late they had night vision gear. His advantage in the darkness had been completely neutralized in an instant. 3 daggers blurred toward him. Day lunged forward, weaving through death with the grace of a seasoned, elite warrior. "How is he doing this?" they screamed. Day seized the opening, delivering a crushing blow to the nearest guard. The others recoiled in terror as Day's eyes ignited with a strange, celestial light. He was no longer prey. He tracked the crimson mana of their murderous intent. Their movements became slow, predictable, and utterly pathetic to him. He unleashed a devastating shadowless kick. The guard's face crumpled as he was sent flying into the dark shadows. The final guard froze, unable to believe a mere child possessed such terrifying, godlike combat prowess and strength. All 3 were fed a feast of pain. They talked big, but their skills were amateurish and truly laughable. As Day prepared to leave, a massive figure blocked his path. It was Henry, a high-ranking hunter organization leader. Henry's eyes burned with fury. "My men, beaten by a brat, this is a disgrace to our entire name." A crushing aura descended. Day struck with full force, but Henry stood firm like an immovable, ancient mountain peak. The giant countered with a thunderous blow. Day barely evaded, feeling the wind of a strike meant to kill. Day leaped back, heart racing. Henry grinned, impressed by the boy's speed, yet still radiating a murderous intent. The gap in power was a bottomless abyss. One direct hit would turn Day into a mere, forgotten memory. Henry charged again, relentless. Day waited for the perfect moment, then unleashed his hidden, elemental magic trump card. He compressed his mana into a searing burst of fire. It struck Henry's chest, but the man didn't flinch. It was a feint. As the smoke cleared, Day was gone. Henry roared in rage, "Find that brat now." The slums erupted into chaos. The hunt was on, and the shadows were no longer a safe haven tonight. Day threw a rock to lure them away, then vanished into the dense forest, his lungs burning with exertion. If captured, his life was forfeit, but he couldn't die, not while those children relied on his protection and care. He ran until his muscles screamed for mercy. Collapsing against an ancient tree, he fought for every single breath. Luck had finally run out. A sentinel spotted Jay's every move. "Found him," the guard roared. Jay bolted toward the deepest shadows. He burst through thickets until his heart sank. A dead end. The pursuers closed in, their eyes locking onto his lone silhouette. Seeing the barbed wire, they sneered. "Nowhere left to run, rat." Daggers glinted in the dark. "Talk, or I'll gut you right here." Jay scanned the thugs. Hume wasn't there. He still had a chance. These weaklings were nothing compared to that giant. He could escape. Jay took a stance. Crimson mana surged around his trembling fists. "Are you deaf?" one yelled, lunging. Jay dodged with lightning speed. The blade missed. Jay seized his arm and delivered a blow. Down he went, blood spraying. The others roared in pure rage. Another charged. Jay grabbed his wrist, his palm burning with heat. A snap and the knife fell. The guard trembled. So strong. Jay didn't blink. Golden lightning mana gathered in his other palm. One shock blast sent him screaming to the floor, charred and broken. Shouts echoed nearby. "Over there, get him!" The danger intensified again. Jay grabbed a fallen knife. He couldn't spam magic forever. Spotting a dumpster, he dove inside just as the guards arrived. "Where is he? Don't lose him." Their voices faded into the distance. Silence returned. Jay exhaled, peering out into the pitch-black night. "Try catching me now." D slept under the stars many times. Hiding in trash, he gripped his blade. He had to protect them. Outside, the manhunt continued as the rain began to pour heavily. Exhaustion hit him hard. He finally drifted into a heavy sleep. Morning came. The rain stopped, but gray clouds choked the sky. Sunlight flickered through the lid. Jay woke up, realizing he'd overslept. Thinking the coast was clear, he leapt out of the bin. "Found you." A guard stood there, his hand hidden behind his back. He sneered, drawing a sharp dagger. "Lucky I came back, huh?" He lunged, but Jay saw a swirling red aura on his chest. That red glow meant pure hatred. Jay readied his own blade. He wasn't fully recovered. The guard's fury only grew more wild. "You have a knife too. How brave." The man lunged forward. "Die, brat," he cackled. Jay raised his blade to counter it. He dodged the first strike, fueling the guard's murderous rage further. Blades clashed. Jay fell back as another strike narrowly missed him. Silver hair fell as he lost balance. The guard grinned wickedly. "Farewell, kid," the guard hissed, raising his knife for the kill. 1 centimeter away. Suddenly, a gunshot echoed, scattering the birds. Blood splattered Jay's handsome face. The guard slumped down dead. Life and death hung by a thread. Jay stood up slowly. Neo stood there, pistol raised, a faint smirk on his lips. "That was close," Jay muttered. Neo's calmly lit a cigarette instead. He holstered his gun and exhaled a cloud of silver smoke. Scanning him for wounds, Neo's chuckled. "Trouble at dawn. You never change, kid." This was Neo's, the feared 17th District boss. He warned Day of the looming shadows. Day, face stained with blood, asked why the boss was up so early. Neo stayed silent. "Hector's dogs are sniffing around," Neo's muttered. He noticed the scrap metal Day was hiding. "Stealing from Hector? You've got guts," the boss roared with a wild, approving laugh. Day gave a curt nod. Beneath his calm exterior, he knew Neo's was a dangerous man. Watching Neo's smoke, Day sensed a hollow void within the man, an unfillable, cold container. "Keep this up and you'll end up dead," Neo's warned. "The world isn't that kind." "Better than starving," Day countered. Neo sighed, remembering the debt he owed the boy. I only pulled you from the river because you looked useful, Day said, cutting him off. Neo smirked. Regardless, you saved my life. Consider the debt partially paid. A year ago, Day scavenged Neos from the water, a betrayed ruler of District 46. Since then, Neos taught him to fight. Now, Day had a proposal to protect the orphans. Neos, Day called out. The boss crushed his cigarette and turned to listen. I'm joining your organization. Day knew this was the only way to keep the children safe. Neo stared deep into his eyes. Tell me, can you manipulate mana? Day froze. Neos had seen him ignite a fire with nothing but a thought. What do you know about magic? Day pressed, his voice sharp with sudden tension. Just rumors of mana in the air, Neos shrugged. Only the gifted can even sense it. And the colors? Day asked. Did they mention what the colors of mana mean? Mana is invisible to the naked eye, Neos replied. Day looked up. Then what am I seeing? A hidden SSS-rank talent was awakening. Is that all you know? Day asked, testing him. Watch your tongue, brat. Neo swung a playful punch, but Day dodged it with ease. The playful air vanished. You're serious about this, aren't you? Neos asked solemnly. Day crossed his arms. My request stands. Neos looked away. The answer is no. Why? Day demanded. Neos looked at the horizon, dreaming of the world beyond the slums. He spoke of the Elton River, where the water flows toward a life of true opportunity. Neos looked at Day's burning potential. Letting a genius like this rot here was a sin. Ever thought of leaving District 50? I can get you a car. Get out while you can. I can't, Day refused. The kids need me. Neos's expression softened into a rare smile. Don't worry about them. I'm building an orphanage right here in the slums. I'll give those orphans wings, Neos promised. No more wandering the streets like stray dogs. Looking at Neos's grayish aura, Day wondered if this dream was just a beautiful lie. Yet he chose to trust. Watch your back, Neos. Hector is preparing for a full-scale war. He's smuggling heavy weapons, Day warned. Neo sighed, already aware of the brewing storm. If you lose, everyone suffers, Day reminded him. Your protection fees were actually fair. Because everyone else is a monster, Neos grumbled, looking down at the young scavenger. Don't act like my big brother, Neos joked. I'm still young enough to find a wife. You're an old man, Day teased, narrowly dodging a frustrated swat from the boss. A car pulled up. The atmosphere shifted instantly as Neos's men arrived for their leader. It's time, boss. Neo stepped inside, his voice echoing. This place will soon be a graveyard. He tossed a small glass tube to Day. Hide until the dust settles. Take this. It was a vial of disinfectant with a blue cross. For your hands, Neos shouted. Day watched the car vanish into the gray fog. His white-blue eyes shimmered with deep thought. Thick smoke choked District 17. The war for the central square had finally begun. Sitting beside the blind Viola, a small figure rushes over with sparkling, joyful eyes. It is little Jose, gasping at Day's tattered, blood-stained clothes and bruised, dirty skin. Were you fighting? The boy cries. Day pulls his cloak tighter. No, I just fell. Tears stream down Jose's face as his chest radiates a pure, warm aura of light. Day marvels at the boy's raw emotions before gently patting his head and sending him home. With watery eyes, Jose nods and vanishes into their makeshift tent, leaving the two alone. Day turns his cold gaze toward the silver-haired woman. What did you tell that child? Viola smiles softly from the roadside. Only stories of rainbows and better days, young one. Stop it, Day retorts. Fairy tales only make the harsh reality of the slums more unbearable. She merely beams with kindness. But Day, even children in the mud need to dream. Day's SSS-rank eyes flare violet as he notices a shimmering purple mana within Viola's chest. Leave this street, he warns coldly. The scent of a bloody war is already rising. He departs as Viola whispers about his kindness. The next morning, Day begins his deliveries. He knocks on the door. Nesu is shocked to see the young boy working so early. Where is the fat guy? Nesu asks. Day recalls the bully he crushed. He is, busy. Dropping the heavy crate, Dae warns the shopkeeper to flee before the coming conflict strikes. Nesu sighs in despair. Suddenly, the iron doors burst open, revealing the ruthless Hector and Neos. The air turns frigid. Hector looms over them, his presence dripping with arrogance and hidden malice. Behind him stands a man with a scarred face. The negotiation for peace has clearly ended. Hector sneers at Dae. A mere slum rat doing a man's job, how truly pathetic. He mockingly tosses a few coins at the boy's feet. Work hard, brat, stay in the dirt. As they turn to leave, Hector laughs, completely unaware of the monster he just insulted. Suddenly, the subordinate hamper stops. His predatory gaze locks onto the bandage on Dae's ear. Dae pulls his hood low, pulse quickening. Did this hunter realize who I really am? Hamper, let's go, Hector shouts. The man glares one last time before stepping away. Nesu gasps in relief as their car roars off. Dae remains silent, calculating his next move. Dae wonders why the man didn't attack. Inside, Neos sits with a face full of defeat. The negotiations failed, Neos mutters. Hector wants absolute control over our very souls. The terms were a death sentence. War is now an absolute, unavoidable nightmare for them all. Neos warns Dae to stay hidden. The streets will soon run red with blood, little one. Dae walks the cobblestone path alone, his eyes narrowing. He must hoard supplies to survive. He won't be able to move freely once the killing starts. His instincts are screaming danger. A luxury black car glides past. Dae recognizes the driver as a high-ranking enemy henchman. Suspicion flares. He stalks the vehicle toward Sector 18, moving like a ghost through shadows. This car doesn't belong in these slums. Something far more dangerous is currently in motion. Dae activates his hidden vision as the car stops. The gang members bow in absolute terror. A man in a refined suit steps out. Welcome, great mage, the thugs whisper in unison. Dae's breath hitches. Within the man's chest, he sees a swirling abyss of dark blue mana. It is like a cosmic black hole. This is no ordinary mage. This is a walking catastrophe. The sheer volume of energy is monstrous. Dae has never seen a human with such power. Dark, binding rings encircle the man's core, struggling to contain the overwhelming, destructive force within. He is a monster, Dae realizes. He must warn Neos before the massacre begins tonight. Those seals are the only thing keeping this district from being erased in a single strike. Using that much mana to suppress himself, the great mage is a threat beyond all measure. Dae retreats into the darkness of the alley. The true war has only just begun. Weapons are being unloaded in the shadows as the secret exchange begins. What happened to our supplies? Panic rises as they're ordered to move faster. Dae suddenly appears, searching for Neos. The guards are stunned. How did a slum kid get here? The gates were wide open, Dae replies coldly. Neos is nowhere to be found. The master is at the front lines. It's war, kid. Get out while you can. Dae hides his awakening mana. He can't reveal his true SSS-rank power just yet. Tell Neos to beware of the man with the monocle, Dae warns with chilling authority. In the desolate ruins, the air turns gray and heavy. Death is lingering in every corner. Children huddle together for warmth. Dae looks at them, knowing this war must end. Pale whispers in the dark, "Do you really think this will be over in a week?" "I don't know," Dae replies. "Both sides are powerful, but Neos must win. If Neos falls, these children will be sold into slavery. The stakes couldn't be higher." The first echoes of battle reach the slums. The nightmare has officially started. A terrifying sound makes them freeze. Dae snaps to his feet, his senses screaming. "Did you hear that?" Pale trembles. Dae's eyes widen. Something is fundamentally wrong. On Street 17, soldiers open fire in a frenzy. Terror is written on their faces. A golem emerges from the smoke, a titan of stone with glowing, murderous eyes. Bullets bounce off its skin like rain. It doesn't have a single scratch. "It's invincible," the soldiers scream. "Where did this monster come from?" The golem raises its hand. Dark, chaotic energy surges forth like a black storm. A devastating blast vaporizes everything. Half a soldier's body vanishes in a heartbeat. The golem is a hollow shell, an unfeeling machine of pure destruction. Its stone fingers crush the life out of its victims before they can even scream. With a brutal rip, the golem tears through flesh. Blood splatters across the battlefield. The man with the monocle watches with a cold sneer. It smells like burning insects. His subordinates tremble in fear. Even they are terrified of this blood-soaked monster. "My masterpiece," he whispers. "Now erase every living soul in this place." Pale hears the screams getting closer. Day prepares to leave, his resolve hardening. "Where are you going?" Pale grabs his arm. "This isn't a normal fight, Day." "Stay here and guard the kids," Day commands. His voice is calm but absolute. A confused child wanders out of a tent. "Why is everyone still awake?" "It's okay," Pale lies, her voice shaking. "Go back to sleep, we'll be right here." Day looks back one last time. "Pale," he starts, but she already knows. "I'll stay," she says, hands on his shoulders. "Just come back to us." "I'll be back soon," Day promises, disappearing into the smoke and fire. He walks through a literal graveyard. The ground is soaked in fresh, crimson blood. He finds a fallen warrior gasping for air. "What happened here?" Day asks. "They have a golem," the man coughs. His life is fading fast. "The monocle man, he's the one controlling it." The soldier screams his last warning. "We couldn't stop them." His eyes go dull. The light of life vanishes. "Run, Day." His hand falls limp onto the cold, hard earth. Day stands alone amidst the carnage. A cold rage begins to boil in his soul. He picks up a small, discarded blade, a humble weapon for a slum-born nobody. If Neos loses, everyone dies. Day grips the knife, his SSS mana finally stirring. Under the pouring rain, two bloody children huddle together, waiting for a savior. The ground was a canvas of tragedy, stained crimson. Among the fallen children, Pale clung to a small body, face pale as death. Drenched in blood, Day gazed up with hollow eyes. A merciless golem loomed over them, ready to crush what remained of his world. In his final moment of helplessness, Day closed his eyes. Tears carved paths through the grime. "Don't come back," he whispered to the void. Day had rushed to District 17, but the scythe of death had already swung. The silence of the central plaza was deafening. A heavy sigh escaped his lips. He was too late. He scanned the carnage, identifying the fallen members of the Neos faction. He searched frantically, but Neos was nowhere to be found. A sliver of hope remained. He has to be alive, Day thought. Suddenly, a thunderous explosion rocked the earth behind him. The shockwave rattled his very bones, jolting Day back into the nightmare. He spun around, eyes tracking the rising plume of fire. Without a second thought, Day sprinted toward the heart of the destruction. The air grew thick with the stench of smoke and ash. Panting heavily, Day arrived to find a scene of absolute devastation. A gargantuan golem emerged from the haze, the architect of the previous blast. Beside it lay the broken remains of the slum children. Day's vision turned pitch black with fury. "I will tear you apart," he growled, his voice echoing with a primal, vengeful rage. He launched into the air, daggers gleaming. But the golem's glowing red eyes locked onto him with mechanical, killing precision. With a metallic roar, the golem struck. The impact was like a falling mountain, sending Day crashing through a stone wall. Gasping for air amidst the rubble, his ribs shattered. Yet, his eyes never left the children. He had to know if any survived. In that haze of pain, a vision appeared. The children were there, smiling and waving as if it were just another ordinary day. "Brother Day," they cheered, running toward him with joyous faces. He stood frozen, mesmerized by the warmth of this cruel hallucination. He basked in their voices until Pale spoke, her tone cold and distant. "Day, we don't want you to come back here." The dream shattered, leaving only the agonizing truth. Reality surged back as Day screamed the names of his lost family. Lauren, Lena, Mile, Josephine. Pale, silence was his only answer. Their bodies lay broken in the mud, painted in crimson. His hand trembled as he reached out. "No," he wailed, collapsing. "I haven't even repaid your kindness yet." A mechanical grind broke his grief. It was the golem. The horrific images of the slaughter flashed through his mind like lightning. The basement, the streets, the innocent lives lost. Day gritted his teeth, his soul igniting. "I will have my vengeance." He stared death in the face. Despite his mangled body, he forced himself to move. Every inch of skin screamed in agony. "Move, damn you," he prayed to his own limbs. The golem stepped forward, its massive foot poised to crush the life from him. Suddenly, a car roared through the debris, slamming into the monster. Neos leaped out, shouting, "Kid, hang in there." Neos checked for broken bones with practiced hands. Day could only claw at the earth, his voice a broken whisper. "The kids." Neos went rigid as he saw the bodies. He bowed his head, fists clenching white. "Day, I am so sorry I was late." Day shook his head weakly. "Not your fault." Neos pulled him into a fierce embrace, offering the only comfort left in this hell. "My men are all gone," Neos rasped. Hector had betrayed them, bringing in a powerful mage from the outside world. Neos stood up, his gaze hardening. "I am going back for survivors. Hector must." A sudden flash of magic cut him short. A mana-infused bullet tore through Neos's chest. Day's world stopped. Neos spat blood, a bitter smile touching his lips. "Damn it." Day caught him as he collapsed, the warm blood staining his hands. He shook Neos's limp body, his mind refusing to accept this. Just seconds ago, they were planning for the future. Now, the light was fading from the eyes of his only father figure. Memories of training sessions and shared meals flooded back. Neos's gruff voice calling his name was now a haunting echo. The grief transformed into a blistering, SSS-rank furnace of rage. His eyes burned with an unholy, murderous light. "I will slaughter every last one of you," he screamed. The golem remained indifferent, preparing its final, crushing blow. The machine conjured a whirlwind of destruction. Day raised his blood-soaked palm, the hidden magic within finally breaking its seals. Two colossal powers collided. While the golem used cold logic, Day poured his entire soul into his vengeful, roaring flames. The air screamed as their powers clashed. "I am a human," Day roared. "I carry the weight of their stolen lives." His mana exploded in a spiraling vortex of fury. The golem's reinforced hull disintegrated like paper under the absolute heat. The shockwave scorched the very earth. When the dust settled, only scrap metal remained. Vengeance had finally been served. Day stood amidst the ruins, his face a mask of cold stone. He knelt beside Neos, shaking him gently. "Wake up, please." He tried to convince himself this was just another nightmare. Neos couldn't leave him. Not like this. Not today. Neos's eyes fluttered open. "Stop shaking me, kid. It hurts," he groaned, a faint, weary smirk playing on his lips. "I knew I'd go out violently," Neos whispered, his voice fading. "But I didn't think today was the day." Then a thought occurred. From a bottom feeder to this, Neos wondered if suffering a little longer would have changed everything. That question remains unanswered. Looking at Day, Neos realized the boy had reached that fateful age. Day rushed to find medicine, but Neos stopped him. His body had already reached its absolute limit. With his final breath, he urged Day to escape this hell and find a better life. "I always saw you as my own brother," Neos whispered. "Swim upstream, Day. Don't let the current drown you." He forced a smile, believing in the boy's potential. Even in his final moments, he thought of Day. Neos pressed the car keys into Day's hand before his arm lost all strength and fell cold. Day stared at his empty hands, then at Neos's blood-soaked body. His eyes widened in pure shock. A primal scream erupted from his throat. For the first time, he felt true rage and absolute despair. He sat motionless until dawn. As the sun hit his face, he woke to a living nightmare. Trembling, Day looked at his hands. He prayed it was just a dream, but the pain was real. Searching within, Day felt a strange spark. Suddenly, a violent flame erupted from his palm. The truth clicked. His magic was fueled by his fury, The more he hated, the hotter it burned. But his control wavered and the flame died out. He sighed, realizing he was still far too weak. Looking at the bodies of his comrades, a dark determination blazed in Day's heart. Revenge was coming. He pulled up his hood, his resolve forged in steel. Blood must be paid for with blood. At District 17, the massacre had been scrubbed clean. The area was eerily organized. Brutal managers barked orders at the cleaners, demanding they work faster in the tense atmosphere. Whispers filled the air. Hector's victory meant life in the slums was about to become a living hell. "Shut it if you want to live," one soldier hissed, terrified of being overheard by the new tyrants. Lurking in the shadows, Day watched them. His hand gripped his blade, ready for the slaughter. Hector's men laughed, insulting Neo's. "That dog died like he deserved," they mocked. Day channeled his crimson mana, ready to strike, when a massive hand suddenly clamped onto his shoulder. Day spun around, his blade grazing the stranger's face. Blood trickled down the man's cheek. "Die, Hector's trash," Day hissed, his eyes burning with a murderous intent that shook the air. He lunged with godlike speed, his blade becoming a blur. The veteran fighter could only play defense. Though Day lacked experience, his sheer velocity was unnatural. HPR was stunned by the boy's growth. "What kind of monstrous movement is this?" HPR thought, barely dodging the lethal strikes. Realizing he was losing ground, the veteran decided to gamble on a dangerous tactical shift. HPR purposefully took a stab to the shoulder, just to close the distance and trap Day. He slammed Day to the ground, pinning him. "Don't throw your life away for a petty grudge." HPR stared into the eyes of the ghost of District 17. "I have a proposition for you." "I've been watching you for a long time, Day," HPR admitted. "Now listen to me carefully." They moved to a secluded corner. This was silent HPR, a man known for his cold efficiency. Day was surprised. This loyal soldier was showing a face the public had never seen before. There was no deception in his eyes. Day sensed that this man truly wanted to deal. "What do you want?" Day asked. HPR replied, "I need you to leave District 50 immediately." The reason was tragic. Hector had sold HPR's younger brother into the city of Mages. HPR had served that monster for 10 years just to find his sibling. He had no other choice. "The boy would be your age by now," HPR said, his voice heavy with a decade of grief. Day remained cold. "Why should I care about your problems?" he asked, unimpressed. HPR leaned in. "Because you're a mage, aren't you?" The words hit Day like a physical blow. "I saw you at the warehouse," HPR explained. "But with your current skill, Hector will crush you." He revealed a terrifying secret. Hector wasn't alone. He had a legendary mage guarding his back. "That man is no human," HPR warned, his voice trembling. "He is a literal demon from hell." Hector's ice magic was absolute, even encasing a fresh corpse in water. A cold-blooded monster. Ham urged Dee to flee the scene immediately. Survival is the first step to revenge. Dee admired Ham's sharp wits. "I'm just a raw talent," Dee admitted. "Facing a master was suicide." The Mage City sits at the Elton source, a place for elites only. Ham offered his life savings. "Find my brother," he pleaded desperately. Dee was stunned by the trust. Why risk everything on a stranger? "You aren't a man who breaks oaths," Ham replied with total conviction. Ham handed over the gold. Dee had the potential for greatness. Dee felt the weight of that trust, meeting Ham's gaze in silence. "Go now," Dee agreed, but he had one final, heavy condition. Bury the body in the basement. Only then would Dee leave. Ham swore he would. Dee turned away, promising a lethal return. Dee sprinted through the slums, finally losing his pursuers in the shadows. He reached Mrs. Viola. "I need answers, and time is fading fast. Is the rainbow legend real? Can it truly grant any wish?" He remembered Johnny's childhood dreams, a myth born from pure innocence. "The rainbow is real," Johnny had claimed, describing its vibrant colors. "Reach its end, and the heavens will grant your heart's desire." Viola sighed. Whether it grants wishes or not, the miracle exists. Her purple mana was pure. Dee saw no lies in her eyes. Can it revive the dead? Dee asked, clinging to a desperate hope. In this world, she whispered, the impossible often becomes a reality. But its location was a mystery, hidden somewhere beyond the horizon. Dee thanked her and warned her to escape the coming storm. He reached District 50. The greenhouse was exactly where Neos said. A white car waited. Neos had actually prepared a getaway vehicle. The door was locked. Suddenly, a hostile shadow blocked Dee's path. Neos's brat, where's your master? An enemy had found him. No time for talk. Dee grabbed a steel bar to break in. As the door opened, the thug lunged. You're going nowhere, kid. Dee dove inside, but the attacker's grip held the door wide. They wrestled for control as the man roared in savage fury. Mana was fading. Dee had to switch to lethal fire magic. He focused his remaining strength into a searing spark at his fingertips. A fire bullet blasted the thug away. Dee instantly grabbed the gears. The car roared to life, leaving District 50 in the dust. He stopped in the ruins and found the trunk full of loot. Neos really came through, but the next district was still far. Night fell. Dee started a fire, determined to master his magic. His knowledge was shallow. He only knew red mana and mixing. Red was the color of raw fury, instant and extremely volatile. He sat in meditation. To control mana, he needed to channel emotion. He summoned his rage. The red mana flared, then died out. He was at his limit. One mistake and his power would shatter. Day focused his absolute concentration, weaving a new mana structure, but his core suddenly rejected the energy. Incompatible mana types clashed violently. Perfecting this fusion demanded extreme finesse and drained his very soul. Analyzing the resonance, Day realized certain elements were destined to merge. The experimentation must continue. Before, he merely survived. Now he fought. Day's eyes burned with the fire of a true king. The carriage moved through the night as Day exhausted his reserves, pushing his mana to the absolute limit. After 7,700 attempts, he finally mastered basic spells by harmonizing the colorful atmospheric mana. Exhausted, Day wondered if a more efficient vessel existed. Storing mana was the key to true power. He recalled the Mage's mana circle, a perfect, infinite loop of energy rotating around a central core. As he neared Sector 49, danger lurked near Bridge 17. Mercenaries were hunting for a ghost. Orders echoed through the air. Find the man with the monocle. Search every corner immediately. The underlings trembled, begging for mercy. If you wait, we will surely find the golem destroyer. The leader's staff glowed menacingly. Don't, he whispered, as the subordinate collapsed in pure terror. The monocled man sneered. I despise those who cannot read my intent. Your time has expired. Pure mana erupted from the staff, inducing a thermal shock that instantly petrified the man in ice. With a disdainful nudge, the ice shattered. Useless trash, he spat, watching the remains crumble away. Sir, we found something. A soldier pointed to the broken remains of a once unstoppable war machine. Sensing the lingering aura, the leader froze. This magic. The residue is still pulsing with immense power. He tracked the traces. The intensity increased. This wasn't just a fight, it was a total massacre. He summoned a subordinate. Tell me, does anyone actually inhabit this godforsaken, ruined wasteland? Just slum orphans, the soldier stammered. The leader paused, his heart skipping a beat. Orphans. They likely fled the war zones. This place was their playground until the destruction began, sir. A slum orphan wielding such high-tier magic. The man burst into a fit of insane, hysterical laughter. How could a slum rat discover a restricted elemental combination among billions of possibilities? Impossible. A mysterious mage has entered the board. Find them. I must know who destroyed my golem. The hunt was on. If the impossible were true, a monster had just been born. A genius. An archmage unlike any the world has ever seen is walking among us right now. Day finally reached Sector 49. He remembered Neos's warning about the chaotic nature of this city. Neos had described it over a cold beer. It's like Sector 50, only bigger, louder, and deadlier. The buildings scrape the sky. The further upstream you go, the more the world itself transforms. It's massive, Day whispered. He scanned the horizon, but the iron golems were nowhere to be seen. Crowds surged through the streets. The air was thick with the scent of commerce and dark secrets. Street 36 was a labyrinth. Day needed the secret of the Mana circle to claim his vengeance. Alone in the crowd, he sought the rainbow. The Mage City was his ultimate, final destination. His coins were limited. He didn't know how long this journey into the unknown would take. Suddenly, he stopped before an ancient shop. Veronica. The name felt strangely human to him. What is a bookstore? Day recalled Neos' survival lessons. Don't die, kill first, and stay alert. Neos had tried to act like a mentor, even begging Day to call him Big Brother. He could read, thanks to Neos, but these rows of symbols felt like a completely new language. He stared at the boxes of letters. Suddenly, a sharp voice pierced through his deep concentration. A redhead glared from a window. Are you here to break my windows and steal again? Get lost, she screamed. Day tilted his head. Are books the things kept inside this cage? Don't make me repeat myself. Beat it. Day noticed her aura was a chaotic, swirling mess. Pink for excitement, yellow for joy, blue for rage. How can one person feel so much? The authorities are coming. Move. Day just sighed, muttering that she was an absolute weirdo. She shrieked in fury, but Day had already vanished. His true journey was only beginning. Better find a new spot. Just as Day resumes his journey, he feels predatory gazes. A group of street urchins are watching his every move. Their eyes burn with suspicion. In these 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒌s, an outsider is a threat. They likely see him as prey or a nuisance to be removed. This place stinks of poverty, just like the slums of District 5. Day finds a corner to rest and plan his next move. He scoured the streets, but traces of magic remain elusive. As he closes his eyes to rest, his sharpened senses pick up a sound. The rats have finally crawled out. Day smirks as he senses them approaching. 1, 2, 3. No, there are 4 of them. 4 small shadows surround his car. Should we kill him? One whispers. No, just restrain him. Get the keys, there's food inside. While they whisper about loot, Day's hand shoots out like a viper. He grabs his coat and delivers a sharp blow to the leader's head. The kid in the red hat collapses. What the hell? Before they can react, Day leaps from the vehicle with lethal grace. He floors the second boy with a devastating right hook. A cry of pain echoes as Day towers over the fallen thieves. Die, you bastard! A third kid swings a club from the shadows, hoping for a cowardly strike from behind. Futile, Day parries with an iron bar, sending the weapon flying. The boy's face turns pale with absolute terror. Stay back! Day's presence is suffocating. He steps closer, his eyes cold enough to freeze the boy's blood. Screams pierce the night. After a quick lesson in dominance, Day has them kneeling in a row. Time for some answers. Who controls this territory? The kids blink in confusion. Day's gaze sharpens. Answer me before I lose my patience. How many districts do you claim? He barks the question. The one in the hat remains silent, trembling like a leaf. A heavy strike silences his defiance. The boy howls in agony. Day leans in, his gaze as sharp as a blade. Three districts, the kid stammers, completely broken. Day doesn't let up. Which ones? Tell me everything. 23 to 25. Day's rage flares up. Liar! He senses the mana signature emanating from the boy's container. He stomps on the boy's hand with crushing force. A blood-curdling scream sends shivers down the spines of the others. Please stop. Spare us. They beg for mercy, sobbing. Day ignores their pleas and turns his cold gaze to the next victim. 14 streets, 52 members in total. A boy named Neo confesses, head bowed in utter submission. Our leader is Cedric. We hide in the old factory. 14 streets. That's more influence than Day expected. What's your name? Day's voice booms like thunder. The boy flinches. It's Neo, sir. Listen carefully, Neo. What were your orders? the boy stutters, to beat you to death and steal everything. Suddenly, a shadow lunges from above. Die! A knife gleams in the moonlight. Day blocks the strike with effortless ease. So I was being watched, Day whispers, releasing a surge of mana. The air itself begins to tremble around his powerful frame. A sudden gale blinds the attacker. Gah, my eyes! The wind carries the dust of the slums, creating a perfect opening. 2 devastating strikes later, the assassin is face down in the dirt. Day grabs him by the hair, eyes burning with menace. Tell your boss that he's not the only one playing the role of the predator. Day walks into the gray city. District 49 is just like 50. Magic is a myth here, but Day knows better. He needs a source of information. If books hold the world's secrets, maybe one contains the truth about magic. Suddenly, a voice interrupts his thoughts. There you are. Thugs emerge from the shadows. Care to take a walk with us? Day remains on high alert. Relax, we're not looking for a fight. Day stares them down. Are you with the brats who tried to kill me? You beat our boys to a pulp. The thug nods. Our boss was impressed by your brutal display of strength. He wants to meet you. The thug pulls out a note, looking confused as he turns it over and over. Can any of you read this? They all shake their heads. Illiteracy is a curse in these slums. The thug sighs in frustration. Give it here. Day snatches the paper. I'll read it myself. The thugs stare at him in disbelief. You can read. Day scoffs at their shock. A little. Whispers erupt among the gang about this mysterious stranger. Only the top bosses can read. Is he a runaway noble? The note is simple. Work for me or starve. What does it say? Day ignores him and asks. How do you people choose who's in charge here? Excuse me. Day repeats his question slowly. How do you decide who the strongest leader is? Through blood and fists. Might makes right in this hellhole. Day nods, a cold determination settling in his eyes. Let's go. Go where? The thug stammers. Day's voice is steady. Take me to meet your king. They arrive at an abandoned factory. This is Cedric's domain. The heavy doors creak open, revealing a dimly lit interior. The doors slam shut behind them. Lights flicker on, revealing a silhouette. A deep voice resonates through the hall. So, you've arrived. Cedric stood to introduce himself. I am Cedric. Day met his gaze coldly. Day! Suddenly, Day's eyes narrowed. A mysterious ring sat on Cedric's finger. Day sensed mana leaking from the artifact. He had never seen such power before. Take a seat, Cedric offered smoothly. You are not an enemy today, but an honored guest. Day sat, completely unfazed. The thugs glared, but Day remained calm. He analyzed Cedric's presence. Young, yet his leadership is sharp as a blade. I like you already, Cedric smirked. You have nerves of steel. Tell me, where did a guy like you come from? Sector 50, Day answered bluntly. The room erupted in shocked whispers. The thugs' faces turned pale with disbelief. Is he insane? No one survives Sector 50. That place is a godforsaken wasteland. He drove all that way alone. Enough, Cedric barked, silencing the crowd. He looked at Day with predatory interest. If that's true, your potential is terrifying. You're wasted alone, Cedric continued. Our organization has grander visions. Day raised an eyebrow. An organization. We are ascending, Cedric boasted. We aim to join Red Med, the legends of Sector 45. Their reputation was absolute. We only need 60 members to qualify. Cedric leaned in, eyes gleaming. Join us. This is your chance to rise. Day leaned back, looking amused. An interesting story indeed. Joining a group isn't that difficult, is it? Exactly, Cedric laughed, thinking he'd won. Welcome to the family, it's the only smart choice. But Day's expression turned cold. However, I refuse to serve anyone weaker than myself. The room fell deathly silent. Cedric's face twisted in pure rage. You think I'm weak, Cedric hissed. Day shrugged. In Sector 50, we choose leaders by strength, not words. You bastard! A thug screamed, lunging forward. Suddenly, Cedric's hand clamped around the man's throat. He gasped for air. Who gave you permission to speak? Cedric roared. I despise interruptions. Day watched, his eyes focused on something else. Physical enhancement magic, Day thought. No, it wasn't natural power. He stared at the glowing crimson ring on Cedric's hand. When will you be finished? Day asked coolly. The thugs trembled. He's lost his mind. He's going to die. I need to shatter that ring, Day realized. He pointed a finger, subtly disrupting the mana flow. Cedric's aura flickered wildly. What's happening? Cedric muttered, confused. Forgive me, Day mocked. My blood just runs a little hot sometimes. Cedric's emotions spiraled out of control. He stepped toward Day, eyes bloodshot. So, you think I'm weak? Let's settle this. Fine by me, Day replied. A chair came flying at his head. Day dodged it effortlessly. You're still too slow. Say that again, Cedric screamed, losing his mind. He turned to his trembling subordinates. Do you think he's stronger than me? No, boss, they shouted in fear. You're the strongest, you're invincible. Their desperate cries filled the room. Day watched with pure disdain. The ring was reacting to Cedric's unstable emotions. He's a slave to an artifact he doesn't understand. Cedric was oblivious to the ring's influence. He glared at Day, baring his teeth. You want to see my real power? Day stood up, his voice booming. Let's make this official, a duel for the leader's throne. If I lose, I'm yours. Cedric grinned like a demon. Fine, 1 week from now. He crushed his fist, his eyes filled with bloodlust. We'll do it publicly, Cedric declared. The gangs and the streets will watch me crush you. His arrogance was boundless. Day nodded. Deal, but tell me, where did you find that ring? The question made Cedric pause. Defeat me and I might tell you, he sneered. But don't hold your breath. The scene shifted to the following day. Day walked the lonely streets, deep in thought. That ring is a dangerous anomaly. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from behind. Day caught the ambusher's fist without looking. A group of thugs armed with pipes surrounded him. Think you're a big shot. You're in our playground now, kid. There's no running away. They closed in, grinning like hyenas. Shut up, Day snapped, his eyes flashing. He dropped into a combat stance. Come and get me if you have the guts. Minutes later, the street was littered with bodies. Everywhere I go, fools want to test me. The rumors were spreading fast. Cedric's men couldn't attack yet, but others were hungry. They wanted to prove their worth by taking down the newcomer. If they let a stranger roam free, they lose face. Day wiped a smear of blood from his cheek. Everything is moving as planned. Every battle makes my magic stronger. He could feel his power evolving with every strike. His mana control was reaching new heights. Experience is the ultimate catalyst. His casting time was shrinking, his efficiency rising. Provoking them was the right move. That's enough for now, Day muttered. He sensed a presence nearby. How long are you going to keep hiding there? A small, trembling boy in a tattered cap stepped out. It was Philip. He looked at Day with wide, terrified eyes. Are you a hunter? Philip whispered. His voice shook with a mixture of hope and fear. Day looked down at the scrawny child. He was far smaller than the others. What is a kid doing out here alone? He clearly lacks combat skills. Philip shouts in panic as the silent predator approaches his position. Wait, the boy stammers in fear. I did not come here to start a bloody fight. Philip trembles, trying to maintain his cool. Look at me, I am too weak to survive a duel. Day pauses. What do you want then? Philip swallows his fear and finally introduces himself. Standing tall, the boy makes his move. I have a proposal for you. Follow me, hunter. They head toward the eastern junkyard. Rumors about you have spread like wildfire through these slums. An outsider who crushed the local gangs. That is how you earn the title of hunter. They reach a hidden bunker. Philip stops before a heavy door, signaling their arrival. He throws the doors open. Inside, a chaotic hive of young orphans works in perfect rhythm. Can someone deliver this to Street 3? Day stands frozen, shocked by the massive scale. Welcome to the Philip Hotel. The boy greets him with a wide, confident grin. Over 100 people live here. 186 to be exact, Philip corrects him. Day notices a pattern. Your recruitment standards seem incredibly low. Everyone here is just a child. You have a sharp eye, Philip admits. Most adults in Sector 49 died in the mines. So you are more than just a fighter. Philip explains the grim reality of their survival. Shops hire children for cheap labor. The local gangs cannot even manage the sheer numbers. I control the workforce. I pay a small fee to the gangs for exclusive labor rights. I am a broker and a provider. Of course, my services are never free, Hunter. Did you build this empire alone? Philip sighs. You have no idea how hard this was. A voice interrupts them. Philip, Jonathan runs over, holding something tightly in his hand. How was the restaurant shift? It was great. No one dared to bully me today. He hands over a stack of cash. Here is the rent for this month, Philip. Philip records the payment in his ledger, while Day watches his every move intently. Philip jumps, startled. Sorry, I must record everything. He hands the ledger to the hunter. Want to see how I manage this place? It might be too complex for a fighter. Day flips through the pages. He stops at a section titled The Hunter from Sector 50. Lives in a car. God-tier combat skills, extremely dangerous, approach with absolute caution. You investigated me thoroughly. Philip gasps in shock. Wait, you can actually read. A little, Day replies calmly. Philip breaks into a cold sweat, apologizing for his spying. I have a habit of observing others. Day hands the book back. No need to apologize. Philip breathes a sigh of relief. He leads Day toward two confused associates. This is the legendary Hunter. He is here as my personal guest of honor today. The room falls silent in shock. Philip leads Day into a private, secure office. Make yourself at home, Day smirks. I thought you were just a common swindler. Business is built on credibility. Philip insists, sweat dripping down his face despite his bravado. Money can be regained, but a ruined reputation is a death sentence in this city. What is your proposal? Day asks, sensing the boy's lingering fear and hidden ambition. Philip's eyes ignite with a sudden fire. To make a profit, one must conquer fear. Become my business partner. It is a sincere offer for our mutual future success. Once you crush Cedric and become the new king, the room turns deathly silent. Day senses a shift in his aura. You think I can actually win this war? I cannot rule out failure, but my gut tells me you will be the victor. I observe people's behavior. It reveals the true nature hidden beneath their skin. You never look into people's eyes. You always watch their chest instead, Hunter. Day is stunned, perhaps a past trauma involving eyes, but let us discuss the deal. Day's voice boomed, demanding the truth. Philip trembled, yet continued his sharp analysis. Philip stammered, his nerves fraying. Speak, Day commanded. The boy adjusted his glasses, focused. You lead with your right, Philip noted. A combat reflex, perfected for lethal survival. Day was stunned. No one had ever analyzed his soul, only his terrifying exterior. They called him a cold monster, but Philip saw the logic within the chaos. You fight with rage, Philip observed, yet calculate every move like a heartless machine. Philip saw victory in his eyes. Before he finished, Day's voice rang. I'm in. Shocked, Philip froze. Day's gaze remained ice cold. Just don't waste my time. But there was a catch. Day stood, a sharp condition on his lips. Use your connections, Day ordered. 2 days later, a master mechanic labored over Day's ride. Sector 50, the man chuckled. To survive the desert in this, you're a legend. Philip likes you, the mechanic grinned. He rarely sends his best to just anyone. Day remained silent. Pass me that wrench, the mechanic requested, and a 6mm nut. Day glanced at the pile. Suddenly, his hidden power surged, lifting the tools effortlessly. The mechanic blinked in shock. Were these, always here, did I move them? Day remained a shadow of silence under the scorching, high-noon sun. Done, the man exhaled. A new radiator for this beast. She'll run smooth now. He leaned in, whispering, took the most expensive one from my shop, just for you. Good work, Day nodded. The mechanic smiled, calling Philip their true savior. Without him, we'd starve, he admitted. Giving him a cut is a small price. Day mused inwardly. Philip's influence in these slums was far deeper than expected. Handing Day a note, the man added, "Philip wanted you to have this. He said your brain might explode from all the info," he joked, waving goodbye. Day stared at the paper. His mind drifted back to their secret meeting. "I need a mage," Day had demanded. Philip didn't hesitate to investigate. "I'll find them," Philip smirked. "Trust me, I'm the king of secrets." 2 days later, Day scanned the list. District 2, Goodman, 42-year-old baker. A one-handed heavy lifter. Then Kenny, a 23-year-old cashier in District 8. Day pondered the descriptions. Then one entry caught his sharp, hunter's eyes. "This one's worth checking," he whispered. On the street, a cook carried heavy crates. Day shadowed him silently. No mana ring on his chest. He wasn't the target. He struck the name out. One left. Suddenly, a pipe plummeted from above. A man in his 30s dodged it instantly. No panic, pure, cold instinct. "Not even a flinch," Philip's note read. Day's blood began to boil with anticipation. "A mage," Day muttered. Nearby, a bookstore was surrounded by a tense atmosphere. "Closed again," a thug sneered. "Hard to run a shop under a hail of stones." "We're done here, right?" one asked, but the leader's eyes gleamed with malice. "Double pay if they sell," the leader barked. "We don't stop until they break." "Aim for the second floor," he commanded. "Let's bring their home down on them." As the thug wound up his throw, a voice shattered the oppressive air. "Get lost, you cowards!" Veronica screamed from above, her face flushed with fury. "I heard everything. Leave this bookstore alone or you'll regret it." Day watched her, a golden aura of courage, yet shrouded in the darkness of fear. The thugs laughed. "You're shaking, girl. At least we have a place to sleep." "Shut up," Veronica cried, her voice trembling. "The authorities will." Cruel thugs pelted her house with stones, mocking the girl's terror with wicked, piercing laughter. "Only old folks and brats live here." Shaking, she screamed for them to shut up and leave. From the shadows, Day watched. A bully hurled another stone, aiming straight for her face. Day froze in shock. He sensed it, the sudden, violent surge of mana radiating from her hands. Blue mana flared, halting the heavy stone midair. With a flick, she sent it flying back. A gale erupted, terrifying the brats. Staring at her trembling hands, she couldn't believe her power. Even Day was stunned. Was that an illusion? He wondered, hiding within the dark alley's corner. No, that was true magic. Terrified, Veronica screamed at them to vanish, but they only grew bolder. "Stop faking it," they sneered, launching more stones. High above, she felt cornered and utterly helpless. Expecting a strike, she closed her eyes. Suddenly, Day unleashed his hidden power to protect her. A powerful vortex blasted the stones away. One hit a bully's face, making him howl in agony. Confusion turned to panic as another stone struck. They clutched their bleeding faces, screaming in pain. Day stepped out calmly, his gaze fixed on the trembling girl who was still in shock. "Long time no see," Day muttered. After teaching the brats a lesson, Veronica bowed in gratitude. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered. Day replied, "No thanks needed, I have questions." Their eyes met in a tense moment. "Are you a mage?" they both asked simultaneously. Flustered, she blushed and invited him inside. Day followed her into the quiet, dusty bookstore. She introduced herself as Veronica, apologizing for her earlier outburst. She'd mistaken him for a bully. Day understood the misunderstanding. Veronica's face reddened as she thanked him for his timely intervention. "I'm just here for the books," Day lied. Privately, he was desperate to uncover the secrets of magic. He never expected to find a hidden mage here. Veronica wondered why he didn't want a reward. How strange, she thought. Most people in the city were greedy, yet he seemed completely different. Sitting down, Day cut to the chase. "Where did you learn to wield such mana?" he asked. "My grandfather taught us," she replied. Day leaned in, his eyes burning with a sharp intensity. "Is he a mage too?" Day demanded. Startled by his pressure, she confirmed her grandfather's identity. Day asked to meet him. She agreed, then noticed a bloody gash on his pale cheek. "It's just a scratch," he dismissed. But Veronica insisted, worried about infection from the slums' filth. Placing her hand on his face, she focused. A soft glow appeared, and the wound vanished instantly. Day was baffled. "How did you do that?" he asked, staring at his perfectly healed skin. "You manipulated white mana to mend my flesh," he noted. Inwardly, he felt a sting of envy. White mana was beyond his reach. It only responded to pure hearts and selfless, noble emotions. Feelings like that were foreign to a survivor like him. He was a hollow vessel of logic. Veronica was confused. She didn't know what white mana was. To her, it was just healing. Day realized even mages couldn't see the colors he saw. To them, mana was invisible. "Is it a restoration element?" she asked. Day nodded, confirming her theory about the rare power. She explained how restoration often merged with other elements. Day hung onto every single word. "There are over 100 elements," she revealed. Day's heart raced. The world was bigger than he imagined. Hope surged through him. Meeting her grandfather might be the key to his ultimate awakening. "Is he upstairs?" Day asked. She nodded sadly, explaining that the old man was bedridden and weak. She told him to wait while she checked on him. Then, she hurried up the creaking stairs. Left alone, Day scanned the shelves. He recognized legendary titles about the essence of human existence. These books were worth a fortune. He hesitated to touch them with his scarred, slum-born hands. He sniffed his clothes, remembering his last bath was just a cold rain shower weeks ago. Did the others smell his poverty? He wondered if his sister's nose was simply broken. Suddenly, a strange book caught his eye. It didn't look like a diary, it felt like something more. Flipping through forbidden pages, he analyzed the elemental paths while whispering the true reason for his quest. Outside, the black rain fell as Veronica descended the stairs, wondering if the mysterious boy had already vanished. "I'm still here," he voiced from the shadows, making her heart stop before she regained her heavy breath. "Just exploring," she thought, surprised he was still there as the boy asked with his arms crossed. "Are there any magic tomes?" he questioned, making Veronica doubt a slum-born boy could read such complex scripts. "Did you check the titles?" she asked, but his calm nod proved this child was more special than imagined. Switching subjects, he asked for her grandfather, but she replied he was lost in a deep, magical slumber. "Come back tomorrow," she smiled, and Day agreed to return before she suddenly voiced a nagging suspicion. "Why do you really want to see him?" she asked, sensing he had a much darker, hidden objective. Day stayed silent, the door creaking open as he left behind a final request for a specific prism. 4:30 p.m. Amidst the restaurant's roar, Day focused on the intel regarding his next high-stakes target. Building 32-1, a shopping street ghost. A man, mid-30s, living a life shrouded in complete mystery. He leaves at dawn and returns by dusk, always carrying a basket before vanishing into a secret basement. This is his lair, Day thought, staring at the building, hoping to find the SSS-class magic secrets within. Rereading Johnny's notes, he prepared to strike, knowing this lead was his only hope for true power. A waiter arrived with a smile, serving a dish Day hadn't ordered, revealing himself as the informant, Johnny. "It's on the house," Johnny winked, calling Day a hero to the kids who watched his every move. Day accepted the meal, but kept his focus, needing to verify the target's movements before the sun set. Johnny leaned in, eager to help, even offering the restaurant's secret codes just to assist the legendary hunter. Unnecessary, Day thought, holding up the intel to ask how certain Johnny was about the target's schedule. 100%, Johnny barked, having tracked the man's basement entries for 3 months without fail. 7 p.m. then, Day noted, as Johnny joked that the man's routine was more accurate than any clock. Suddenly, the manager's roar cut through the air, scolding Johnny for slacking off during the dinner rush. "Gotta run," Johnny whispered, leaving Day alone as the clock ticked toward the hour of the hunt. At 6 p.m., Day began his final meal, his eyes fixed on the target's hideout across the street. The plate was soon empty. Day stared out the window, and suddenly his target emerged from the shadows. Activating his mana sight, Day saw a terrifying red aura. This wasn't a man, but a powerful masked mage. "Thanks for the food," Day called out, pulling his hood low as he stepped into the cold night. Standing before the house, he calculated his window. He had exactly 1 hour to find the truth. "I must find the magic clues now," he whispered, stepping toward the entrance of the mage's sanctum. The door was bolted shut. Day cursed his luck but refused to retreat, searching for any way inside. Suddenly, his SSS-rank mana surged, flowing instinctively from his fingertips and into the heavy iron lock. The lock clicked open. Day stared at his hands, shocked by this sudden, overwhelming awakening of his power. "Focus," he hissed, shaking off the confusion as he stepped into the room to begin his search. Scraps of paper in the corner caught his eye. Could these be the forbidden records of the rogue mage? He read of blazing fires and expulsion, realizing these were the desperate ramblings of a fallen sorcerer. The letters were heavily censored, but Day's eyes widened at the mention of a legendary blood gem. 66 locations, the note read, and Day immediately connected it to the 66 orphans from his past. Cirque's voice echoed in his mind, the promise of a home once their numbers reached exactly 66 children. This mage was a pawn of the Red Mesh, the organization that had exploited the slums' innocent children. Something throbbed with power inside a box, radiating a sinister, high-density red mana that filled the room. Day opened it to find gems identical to Cirque's ring, the fabled blood gems of ancient magical legend. He analyzed the stones, realizing they were pure conduits of mana, far more potent than the natural air. These can absorb power effortlessly, he realized, his mind racing with the possibilities of his hidden strength. What would happen if I channeled my magic through these? He wondered, as a dangerous power stirred. Instantly, a brilliant flame erupted within Jay's palm. He stared at the crimson blaze, realizing its intensity surpassed anything he had ever summoned. Normally, casting such magic took far longer. Before he could process this growth, heavy footsteps echoed. Jay tightened his grip on the stones. High alert, the man was back. Less than 15 minutes had passed when the intruder stepped back into the room and approached the desk. He muttered under his breath, "Damn it, I can't believe I forgot my wallet. I'm getting stupider by the day. No wonder the boss fired me." As the man tried to calm himself, Jay remained hidden, listening intently. Wanter began to exit the room, still grumbling to himself. "I need to stock up on more food than usual so I don't have to step outside for a while," he said. Jay waited silently behind the door. He thought the man had left, but Wanter suddenly stopped. "Oh, it seems there's one more thing I need to take care of." A twisted smile crept across his face as he whispered, "Right, I need some rat poison." Wanter spun around and screamed, "Did you think I didn't know you were hiding there?" Jay reacted instantly, swinging his blade with lethal precision. Wanter let out a pained shriek as the steel bit into his flesh. Struggling to stay upright, the man punched the wall in a blind rage. "You little bastard," he hissed, teeth gritted. "Who the hell are you?" "I thought you were an organization assassin, but you're just a brat." Blood poured down his face, blurring his vision. "How did you pick that lock?" Jay didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, blade flashing, thinking he would overpower the man and force him to spill everything he knew. But the next moment caught him off guard. Wanter snatched the blade barehanded, cursing, "You little piece of trash." A menacing aura began to radiate from Wanter. "You dare point a knife at your elders?" He glared at the blade, his expression darkening. "And how are you this strong?" Jay quickly wrenched the knife back and leaped away, keeping his weapon raised defensively. Jay realized Wanter's trick. The man was concentrating mana into his hands, using a specialized magic to harden his skin against the blade. Wanter drew his own weapon, roaring, "I went easy on you because you're a kid, but now I'm going to rip your face off." As Wanter's weapon swung toward him, Jay had a realization. "I can do that same magic." He instantly mimicked the flow of mana. Blood sprayed through the air. Wanter froze, his eyes wide with shock. How can you possibly use that magic?" Jay tapped into his memory. perfectly recalling the color composition and mana ratio of the spell Wanter had just used. Wanter tried to charge again but stumbled. What is happening? That was a unique magic I invented myself. Could this brat be? Jay spotted a fatal opening. He dropped low and struck with overwhelming speed, his counterattack dealing a heavy blow to his opponent. Wanter groaned, clutching the railing for support as he stared at the boy in agony. He was losing ground fast. "I knew it," he wheezed. "The boss must have sent you." Before he could say more, Jay drove his blade into the man's arm. "I heard rumors of a magic copier among the assassins," Wanter gasped. Jay remained calm, realizing he needed to lower his voice to stay anonymous. "I have many questions," Jay stated coldly. "From now on, you will answer every single one of them." Wanter broke into a haunting, eerie laugh. Hoo. I never imagined the legendary assassin would be so young." Jay looked at the dying man, analyzing the situation. Based on his experience, negotiating with someone this deranged was impossible. If he couldn't extract information, it was better to end it here. Suddenly, Wanter's power surged, sending a chill down Jay's spine. The man howled like a maniac. "Fine, I get it now. I'll force the boss to acknowledge my true potential. I'll burn you to ashes, you assassin dog." Flames erupted from Wanter's body, his laughter echoing with pure insanity. "The blood eye will visit him soon. That is, if you even manage to crawl out of here alive." Jay observed calmly. Mana was surging violently through Wanter's rings, and a dark crimson energy was flooding his entire nervous system. The situation was turning critical. If he didn't manifest his own mana protection, he would be in deep trouble. The inferno grew more intense. Wanter screamed, "Assassin, you came for my life and the crimson blood jade, didn't you?" He charged at Jay with a suicidal challenge. "Try and kill me then." Jay immediately deployed a mana shield to block the fire. Wanter laughed with delight. "A protection spell? Good. If you're here to kill me, you should at least have that level of magic." The fire's intensity increased. Wanter mocked him. "Are you just going to hide behind that shield forever? How long can you last?" Jay searched for a solution. He couldn't get close while Wanter was encased in flames, and his shield was reaching its limit. What happened next shocked even the seasoned warrior. The flames flared up again as Wanter pushed his power to the absolute brink. Jay realized he couldn't just block this. He had to extinguish the source. He began calculating his next move with cold precision. Seeing the shield flicker, Wanter sneered, "Giving up on your protection? Are you actually stupid?" But he stopped mid-sentence, stunned as Jay prepared a completely different type of offensive spell. Wanter's voice trembled. You're using two primary magic circles simultaneously." Jay's water attribute strike slammed forward. "You can even use water elements," Wanter gasped, his mind reeling. "Just who, or what are you?" Blood soaked his clothes as Jay stepped out. His nose bled relentlessly from pushing his magic to the absolute limit. Wiping the blood, he marveled at the unrivaled power of magic. The mana flow felt smoother, the color fusion faster. He acknowledged his opponent, Wanter, was truly formidable. He couldn't even imagine the terrifying strength of that monocled mage. With his current level, revenge was still impossible, but given enough time, he knew he would become the strongest. Pulling a gemstone from his pocket, he whispered to himself, if only he had known things would turn out like this. The gems sparkled in his hand as he smirked. He had managed to take every single one of them for himself. The next morning, Jay arrived at the bookstore. Veronica greeted him warmly, holding a stack of books with a smile. She noticed his new attire and asked if he changed. Jay calmly replied that he had thrown his old raincoat away. He recalled the dark room. Even if his face remained hidden, the enemy could still recognize his distinct clothing style. Veronica led him to a back room, explaining she told her grandfather how his magic helped them find the rainbow. Jay asked if she mentioned anything else. She confirmed she kept his secrets, noting that he hadn't shared much anyway. He noticed two children peeking curiously from behind a door. He gave them a sharp look and a slight nod. The children gasped and quickly slammed the door shut. Veronica explained they were her younger brothers from an orphanage. Monta and Junfin had been taken in by her grandfather. Jay bluntly asked if they were here to learn magic. Veronica blushed in shock, wondering how he knew. Jay turned away, stating it was the only logical reason for them. She had mentioned learning magic from her grandfather before. Veronica regained her composure and nodded as they walked together. Entering the inner sanctum, she announced their arrival. "Master Graham, I have brought the young man who saved us." Jay followed her gaze to Graham. The old man sat on a bed in white robes, deep in meditation. So this is the legendary mage, Jay thought. Graham opened his eyes and asked Veronica for a moment alone. After she left, Jay sat by the bed. Sunlight flooded the room as the old master looked at him kindly. "First, I must thank you," Graham said softly. "I heard you drove those thugs away when I couldn't protect them." Jay humbly dismissed the praise. He watched the glowing energy within Graham, noticing the 4 distinct mana rings swirling inside. He recalled the meaning of the colors: red for rage, orange for comfort, and yellow for pure joy and excitement. Green represented shame, while blue meant indifference. Deep indigo stood for melancholy, forming a complex tapestry of human emotion. This wasn't just mana. These were emotional imprints left on his soul after decades of living through countless storms. Jay narrowed his eyes, realizing how difficult it was to read someone with such a deeply layered and tempered spirit. Graham broke the silence, mentioning that he heard Jay was searching for answers that only a true mage could provide. Jay confirmed his long search. Graham smiled, noting that according to Veronica, Jay was already quite skilled in magic. "There is still much I do not understand," Jay added. Graham laughed gently, asking if Jay was from a distant land. Jay avoided the question. Graham sensed a long, complicated story behind the boy's eyes and decided not to push further. His palm began to glow with a brilliant white light. "Let us play a game. The winner asks one question." Jay was stunned by the old man's calm but piercing gaze. "Your quick reactions prove your senses are sharp," Graham noted. "Can you feel the mana between us?" Jay nodded instinctively. Not only could he feel it, he could see it. He observed the pale gray mana radiating from Graham's hand. The old master smiled, noticing the change in the atmosphere. "Different spells use different elements," he explained. "When elements collide, they create something entirely new right here in the center. This is the element of maintenance. It is the crucial force needed to sustain internal balance against all external chaos." Graham stroked his beard, calling it the hardest element to manipulate. Jay then asked about the element right beside it. Graham's eyes widened in pure shock. "You can sense 2 elements, not just one." He couldn't believe what he heard. Jay confirmed he saw a light gray and a dark gray. They were distinctly different tones, clear as day. Graham laughed until he shook, hiding his face. How is this possible? He didn't need to search orphanages anymore. This boy instantly identified the elements of maintenance and progression, feats that normal mages struggle with for a lifetime. "Fate is a cruel jester," he whispered. "My time is running out, yet only now do I find a true prodigy." Jay looked at him calmly and asked again, "If the element isn't maintenance, then what exactly is it, Master Graham?" The old man lowered his hand, his eyes burning with excitement. He hadn't felt this alive or thrilled in years. "To speak plainly, what could be more exhilarating than trying to win this game against a talent like yours?" Graham's hand extended toward the boy, conjuring a swirling orb of dual elements between them. He demonstrated his mastery by effortlessly pulling the sphere, proving mana obeys the strongest will. The test began as Graham nudged the mana closer to the boy to ensure a fair duel. Day stared at the sphere centered between them, knowing defeating a master seemed nearly impossible. "With this chance, everything is possible," he declared, his eyes burning with newfound seriousness. Graham gave a sharp nod. "Begin!" Instantly, the sphere vanished toward the old mage's side. Day's eyes widened in utter shock as Graham caught the mana with his eyes closed. Paralyzed, the boy could only scream internally, "He's too fast," as the master stood unmoved. With a cunning smirk, Graham held the prize. First question, who was your magic master? Day pulled back his hand, his voice steady. I am self-taught. Graham's composure shattered instantly. Twice in one day you've stunned me, Graham laughed. Day frowned, wondering if self-learning was rare. Win, and I shall answer that too. Day's gaze hardened with a lethal spark of determination. Again, Day demanded. Graham's laughter echoed as the boy struggled to grasp the elusive power. Victory again, Graham cheered. Success depends on control, not just the number of mana circles. Day watched like a hawk, his fists clenching as he analyzed every movement of the master. I'm leaking information while gaining nothing. I need to change the flow of this battle. His eyes blazed with resolve. Time for a different tactic, he shouted, surprising the old man. Their mana clashed violently until a surge of azure energy gathered in Day's hidden palm. Graham recoiled in shock. In that split second, Day snatched the mana sphere for himself. A change in strategy, I see, Day calmly replied. There are no rules against interference. Graham stroked his beard, intrigued. Ask your question, Day looked up. What is mana truly? The master pondered the energy of the moon and storms. Mana, it is everything, he whispered. It is the primordial element, the very foundation of every single thing in this world. Invisible and untouchable, yet its flow is revealed through the fury of lightning and storms. Graham leaned closer. Furthermore, only a chosen few are born with the gift to sense it. Day listened intently as Graham conjured a phantom image of the flowing mana streams. However, sensing mana is not using it. Manipulation is a realm far beyond simple awareness. Day asked seriously, by talent, do you mean the innate ability to command this power? Graham's eyes narrowed. Exactly. It is the art of weaving elements into a perfect harmony. Gazing out the window, he added, the more you understand mana, the greater you become. Magic is the ultimate journey of self-discovery. That is why the ancient saying exists. Placing a hand on his heart, Graham whispered, Mana welcomes those who are truly honest. Mana welcomes the honest, Day repeated, just as the sphere surged toward him in the next round. Graham was stunned. The boy had already mastered the most difficult element to control. After the clash, Day exhaled sharply. Graham sighed in defeat. What is your next question? Remembering a crimson energy, Day asked, tell me about the rings surrounding the mana core. Graham looked surprised. You mean the rings within the mana vessel? Let me explain. Ambient mana accumulates in these rings, undergoing a vital process of refinement and purification. Day probed further. Does this process make mana safer than the energy in the air? Graham nodded gravely. Yes, but it is for a reason far more critical than convenience. Using raw atmospheric mana repeatedly will lead to a lethal state called mana poisoning. Symptoms start with dizziness, nausea, or even fits of uncontrollable laughter and weeping. The poison manifests differently in everyone, preying on their deepest and most core emotions. Once these symptoms overwhelm the host, they evolve into a permanent, chronic mental collapse. Day's heart went cold as a vision of CC's descent into madness flashed before his eyes. Raw mana triggers madness. The clash of energy and emotion is lethal, but Day was different. His frozen heart was a shield. Being devoid of emotion, he was immune to mana poisoning. Wielding raw atmospheric energy provides a godlike advantage. Graham stared in utter shock at the boy's potential. An impossible theory. I have never seen a monster like that, the master whispered in awe. Unlimited power from the void. No ordinary mage could ever rival such an SSS-rank existence. Do you have a dream, Day? Confused, the boy wondered if he meant a literal nightmare. I mean your future, Graham clarified. There are things I must finish, Day muttered darkly. Vengeance and salvation. He wanted to kill one man, but save so many others. A rare path for a slum-born boy. Most only seek blood, yet Day sought to protect. Then the ultimate offer was made. Will you become my disciple and learn magic? Why would a four-circle master teach an orphan? Suspicion clouded the young boy's mind. Was there a hidden price? Day searched for an ulterior motive in the old man's eyes. Graham asked for nothing in return. Flustered, the boy's resolve began to waver in the silence. Determination blazed in his eyes. "Yes, I want to learn," Day finally declared. A legacy was born. Graham smiled, then called for Veronica to enter the room. Caught eavesdropping, the girl apologized, but the master only welcomed her with a gentle nod. The secret of the orphanage was revealed. Why were these specific children chosen to stay? They were the chosen vessels, destined to inherit the master's forbidden and ancient knowledge. "Listen closely," Graham warned. "This is the truth regarding the legend of the rainbow." Day's true mission surfaced. He had been hunting this mythical power all along. An ancient relic of supreme power, a fairy tale that many have died trying to find. Visions of prismatic energy danced in his mind, crystals of light that held infinite magical potential. To find the rainbow is to become a deity, a divine entity with endless mana at their fingertips. "What exactly is a god?" Veronica asked, her innocent eyes filled with curiosity. "Absolute omnipotence," Graham replied. Day realized his enemies were hunting the same divine prize. The one-eyed mage was close. Suddenly, an attack shattered the window, ending the peace. A lethal projectile aimed straight for Veronica. The girl froze as death raced toward her. In a flash of SSS-rank speed, Day snatched the stone. He moved before anyone could blink. The slum-born boy became a shield. He held the terrified girl, protecting her from the impact. High-level wind magic. Day's face darkened. His previous warning clearly wasn't enough for them. Two shadows fled into the night. Those cowards didn't realize who they were dealing with. "You've saved us again," Graham chuckled softly, but his eyes were filled with deep melancholy. A master trapped in a failing body. He hated being too weak to protect his own disciples. "Heal him, Veronica," he commanded. The girl immediately channeled her magic into Day's hand. Soft light enveloped his wounds. She focused intensely, her hands trembling as she treated him. "It's just a scratch," Day noted calmly. He was moved by her unexpected kindness and care. Her eyes were red from crying. Day wondered why anyone would weep for a nobody like him. It might leave a permanent scar, but today, that wasn't a bad thing at all. To a warrior, scars are badges of honor, marks of a survivor who refused to stay down. Graham watched them with a father's gaze. "Don't overexert your mana yet, Veronica," he warned. The harassment was reaching a breaking point. This was no longer a simple coincidence. A month of constant attacks. Someone was desperately trying to drive them out of the shop. A greedy shadow wanted the bookstore. A mysterious buyer was using force to get their way. But Graham refused to surrender his home. He had a legacy to protect and dreams to fulfill. His disciples were his final hope. The real battle for supremacy was only just beginning. A lifetime of research was suddenly interrupted by a tiny hand tugging his sleeve. Veronica's sweet voice called out to her grandfather. Two young boys followed, their faces glowing with excitement. They brought a small bouquet to celebrate the bookstore's grand opening. Graham knelt to accept the flowers, his smile hiding a deep, weary sadness. His wrinkles deepened, yet a flicker of joy remained. "I am content with this life," he whispered. Welcoming children and book lovers was his dream, but his time was fading. Veronica had taken over the shop due to his mysterious condition. Day watched in silence as a heavy atmosphere filled the room. "If I pass away, things will take a turn for the worst. A shop run only by children is easy prey for wolves. To protect them, he would have to sell his dream and find a safer home." Veronica froze, trembling at the thought. A desperate cry shattered the quiet. "No!" Veronica stood behind him, her head bowed as she refused to accept this fate. "You cannot sell the shop." Her hands gripped her skirt tightly, pouring her heart out. This place was his life's work. Opening this sanctuary had been his dream since childhood. Instead of scolding her, Graham felt a surge of profound gratitude. "Thank you for thinking of me," he comforted her with a pale smile. But not every wish is destined to come true. She couldn't face the harsh reality. Tears fell like rain, her hair veiling her eyes as she begged to keep the shop. Her hands shook with the purity of a small angel. "I don't want you to disappear." Graham was stunned by her love. As she collapsed into his arms, tears of bittersweet happiness filled his eyes. For a moment, the world felt whole again. "I've placed too much of a burden on you," he sighed. Day's cold gaze softened as the old man drifted off. But this was no ordinary rest. It was the eternal slumber, a rare and incurable curse slowly stealing his life away. Day leaned against the staircase as Veronica explained the situation. 2 months ago, the long nights began to take hold. His sleep grew longer each day until he could barely move. Now, he only remained awake for 2 to 3 hours. She forced a gentle smile, her cheeks flushing. "Please come again tomorrow. He usually wakes up in the early morning light." Day put on the raincoat she had lent him. "It fits you perfectly," she noted softly as he prepared to step out. "See you tomorrow, Day," she called out. As his hand touched the door, a memory of a weeping child flashed. An unexpected wave of empathy surged within him. Day turned back, moved by a sadness he couldn't fully comprehend but felt. He wasn't one for sentiment, but he knew that a few kind words could sometimes mend a broken soul. "Don't worry," he said, his voice surprisingly warm. "Everything is going to be all right. Just you wait and see." She looked up in surprise, her eyes meeting his steady gaze. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. As he vanished into the rain, she whispered a tearful thank you. Day moved through the shadows, scanning the dark streets. Where were those thugs hiding? He remembered their shaved heads, muscular frames, and the predator-like glares in their eyes. District 8 was the territory of the 𝒂𝒂𝒏𝒌 gang. Those arrogant kids from earlier were definitely part of that ruthless crew. Day's pace quickened through the storm. He needed to find Philip, his only connection to the city's underground power web. He had planned to deal with the 𝒂𝒂💆 eventually, but the timeline had shifted. He needed a solid plan to strike. Philip could arrange a meeting, but suddenly Day stopped. He sensed something foul lingering in the cold, damp air. Ducking into a corner, he saw harsh lights and heard the sound of violence echoing from a nearby hidden room. It was Cedric's group. What were these elite bastards doing in the slums? Day watched from the darkness, eyes narrowing. "When will this be over?" One guard groaned. The other paled, knowing their boss's cruelty often lasted until the break of dawn. Day observed silently, a phantom in the night. Through the glass, he saw a monster unleashed in a fit of rage. Cedric was brutally beating a captive, his movements frantic and wild. The victim was being pushed to the brink of death. With brown hair and a face masked in blood, the victim gritted his teeth. Day's heart skipped. He recognized that man. Cedric panted, his fists stained crimson. "You arrogant trash," he roared, his face twisting into a mask of pure, sadistic hatred. "Looking at people like you makes my skin crawl." Screams of agony echoed out, but they were suddenly cut short. Day grabbed a guard's head and used him to shatter the door. The entrance exploded as he stepped into the light. The guards were swept aside like autumn leaves. Day stood amidst the wreckage, calling out the name of the elite monster. Cedric turned, blood splattered across his cheek, a confused grin forming. "Well, well, if it isn't the slum-born brat Day. Do you have business with this pathetic dog?" He pointed at Philip, who lay broken and unconscious in a pool of blood. Philip looked like he was at death's door. Day didn't believe in loyalty, but he always paid back his business debts. Philip had been useful, and Day wasn't about to let his investment die. He stepped forward, his aura beginning to boil. "Take it and pay it back, that's the iron rule." Cedric sneers, his smile dripping with malice. How impatient. A crimson, blood-like aura erupts from his body. His eyes turn ice cold. "Eager to die right now, are we?" Day remains silent, his gaze piercing. He's changed. Cedric grinds his teeth as the ring on his finger pulses with a sinister, blood-red light. Day realizes the artifact has evolved while being worn. "Calm down." Day says coldly, "I'm not here for a fight, just to watch the show." Cedric lets out a mocking laugh. "Are you two actually friends?" He glares at Day, his suspicion growing. "Did that bastard offer you a deal?" He's only good at petty tricks. Veins bulge on Cedric's face as he lunges, fueled by pure, unbridled rage. He's a parasite clinging to the strong. Pathetic. Nearby, Philip lies broken, blood pooling from his forehead. Day seizes Cedric by the chest and hurls him back. A murderous red glint flashes in Cedric's eyes. He skids but stabilizes instantly. Roaring with fury, he charges again, his fist wreathed in a violent crimson aura. Day tracks the strike with surgical precision. He catches the earth-shattering punch effortlessly, not moving an inch. Cedric stares at his trembling hand in Day's grip. Fear flickers in his eyes. "Let go! This is none of your business." Day tightens his hold. "Tell me, why do this?" Cedric snarls, ripping his hand away in a manic frenzy. "Looking at weaklings makes me sick," he bellows. Outside, the storm rages, lightning illuminating the grim scene. "You hate the weak that much?" Day asks. Cedric clutches his face, his eyes wide with pure, distorted hatred. "That's no excuse to hurt people," Day interrupts. Cedric punches the wall, leaving a massive, spider-web-like crack. "Get out," he spits. "Leave now or you're next. Cross into my territory again and I'll end you." "I'll make you an example." Day stays silent, his fingers brushing a hidden gem. He begins to calculate. "If I use this gem, I can end him instantly. But the side effects, they're still a dangerous unknown." He decides to wait. "Fine then," Day challenges. "You're clearly not in your right mind, are you?" "If you want to humiliate me, I have a better idea." Cedric pauses, blinking in confusion. "What?" Day crosses his arms, his voice steady. "I'm saying there's a much more effective way to assert your dominance." "You want Philip dead? What's the point without witnesses?" Day taps his chin, acting as if he's pondering. "I'd do it in front of everyone." He looks at the stunned Cedric. "Wouldn't that be more satisfying?" The suggestion hits home. Cedric imagines the public execution, a twisted, manic grin spreading across his face. "Not a bad idea," he mutters. "The tournament is perfect. The strongest of District 49 will be watching." "I love it," Cedric points a trembling finger at the unconscious Philip. "But what if this rat flees?" Day steps in front of Philip, his gaze freezing. "Don't worry, I'll personally ensure he's there." Cedric laughs. "Fine, you don't seem like the type to lie." But his expression darkens with a threat. "If he escapes, or if you let him go." Cedric's eyes burn with a demonic, blood-red intensity. "Then you'll be the one I execute in his place." He leaves Day alone with the battered Philip. Day immediately kneels, shaking his friend. "Philip, wake up, can you hear me? Speak to me." Philip, his face a mask of bruises, coughs up blood. Day's heart sinks. This is worse than I feared. Outside, the black rain falls in relentless sheets. A man in a singlet screams into the dark storm. "Don't they know the gates are closed today?" His jaw drops as he sees the horrific sight approaching. Day is carrying Philip on his back, his cloak drenched in blood. The man shrieks, "Philip, Day!" Day is gasping for air, his body at its limit. "Just help me." Later, Day waits alone on a bench. The door creaks open. Day looks up as a man gestures toward the infirmary room inside. "Philip's awake." Day doesn't waste a second and rushes in. "You look better than I do, at least." Philip smiles weakly. "The kids told me everything. You carried me all the way back. Thank you, Day." Day looks at the bandages wrapping Philip's head. "I'm just glad you're alive. Why were you even there?" "It was an accident," Philip explains. "I was scouting the area for when you finally take over this district. I wanted to expand our hotel business to the trade zone, but I ran into Cedric." Philip sighs. He recalls counting the shops and planning. Day is stunned. "That was incredibly bold of you, I thought." "I was a coward," Philip blushes. "I still am, but sometimes you have to be brave for a friend." "When do you smile?" Philip laughed. "When there's money." But Day read his mana. A liar. His mana glowed pink, the color of loyalty, not the gold of greed. Day's gaze turned icy. "Why be so stingy? You've known Cedric for years, right?" Philip winced, his eyes darting away. "You're sharp." "I wasn't trying to hide it." He sighed. "Cedric and I, we've been brothers since we were little kids. We were slum rats, stealing scraps just to survive. We were the weakest link. We bled and clawed our way up until we finally built this hotel. We made it, Philip had cheered. Cedric, look, our own place, you like it. But Cedric just stared into the void, his soul appearing cold and empty. Suddenly, his eyes bled crimson. Sewer rats, how long must we keep hiding? Philip was stunned. Cedric's heart was a furnace of pure, unadulterated rage. From that day, he became a beast, training until his very bones nearly broke. Then, one day under a scorching sun, Cedric walked away without looking back. Half a year ago, he became a street-fighting demon, a madman obsessed with violence. Did he get that strong just by training? Day asked, sensing something supernatural. Philip shook his head. No, he used to lose, he was too small. But the desperation turned into a terrifying, unnatural madness. Everything changed. He's different now, Philip nodded. It's like he's possessed by a forbidden power. Day narrowed his eyes. Was he wearing a ring? Philip paused, searching memories. The one he has now. He found it after becoming the gang leader. He wasn't always this violent, was he? Day's intuition was razor-sharp. Philip gasped. You're too observant, but yes, since he left, he's a stranger. Day's mind raced. Cedric must have met that shadowy figure in the slums. A man drenched in filth and malice, wearing a grin like a devil. That monster offered a glowing ring, a cursed pact from the deep abyss. Since then, the gap between the two friends became a bottomless chasm. He looks at me with pure disgust now, Philip muttered, his voice trembling. In that last fight, he truly tried to kill me. Sorrow choked him. Do you want to talk to him? Day asked, his tone unreadable. Philip looked up. He's your childhood friend. Don't you want to save him? Philip's eyes clouded with hesitation before hardening. If it's possible, then yes. Day's eyes flashed with cold, golden light. Then we're going to the arena. I'll give you a chance once the dust settles. Philip's eyes filled with hope. But then he froze, scratching his head. Wait, that's impossible for me. Only the 3 major gangs enter. A nobody like me would be killed. Day smirked. Don't sweat it. I already told Cedric you're coming with me. Philip exhaled, overwhelmed. To go this far for me? Thank you, Day. Day cut him off. Wait, if I lose, you'll be publicly executed. Philip's face drained of color. Executed me? You can't be serious. Day nodded calmly. If Cedric wins, you're a dead man. No jokes. Is this a prank? Stop it. Philip was hyperventilating in sheer terror. Day placed a heavy hand on his shoulder. Relax, you won't die. His voice was like steel. Because there is 0 chance I lose to Cedric. Inwardly, Day smiled. Once Philip owes me his life, he'll be my pawn. Philip clenched his fists. Fine, I'm in, Day grinned. Good choice. Day extended his hand. One final task remained in this hellish arena, his second ultimatum. Are you insane? Another suicide mission? Philip shrieked, drenched in cold sweat, his hands trembling. Philip gestured frantically, terrified, but Day's gaze was frozen ice. Didn't you say gold is worth any risk? Greed will conquer your fear. Day stepped closer, his voice a low growl. This isn't just a fight, it's an empire. Philip froze. Day was right. The audience wasn't just trash, they were the elite of the 3 underworld kings. Powerhouses like Jeffer and Vaughn were watching. The shadows of the slums' true rulers were converging. This was a sea of black market capital, more money than the slums had ever seen in one place. Philip rubbed his chin, calculating. But the stakes were lethal. If Day fell, they both died. Sensing his partner's doubt, Day's voice cut through the air. I'll win. Those insects don't even matter. That murderous aura made Philip shiver. Quickly, he pulled a drawer open, his fear replaced by hunger. He slid a contract toward Day, a predatory grin forming. Then it's a deal. Sign your soul away. 2 days later, Sector 49, the junkyard of death. The stage was set for Day versus Siddiq. Gangsters roared for blood, their savage cheers shaking the scrap metal. The high-tier bosses sat in their thrones. In the center of the chaos, the 2 predators locked eyes, the air thick with the stench of upcoming slaughter. A hunter from Sector 50, the crowd sneered. An outsider thinking he can rule us. Ridiculous. The brat is arrogant, but 𝒂𝒔𝒆 is a monster. This will be a short, one-sided massacre. Betting slips flew. Everyone poured their chips onto 𝒂𝒔𝒆, even with the pathetic returns of a guaranteed win. Easy money, the thugs laughed. That trash from the outskirts is going home in a body bag. Through Dae's eyes, the arena glowed with the red and yellow mana of pure, unfiltered greed. 𝒂𝒔𝒆 growled, "You came alone. You've got guts, kid, but you ignored my final warning." Dae remained eerily calm. "I didn't ignore it. He's right on time." Suddenly, the heavy doors groaned open. The mechanic pushed a wheelchair forward. Philip. The crowd gasped. The crippled businessman had actually shown up. Is he here for a funeral? A half-dead man coming to a death match? 𝒂𝒔𝒆's laughter was jagged and cruel. "Silence!" 𝒂𝒔𝒆 roared, enjoying the spotlight. He looked at Philip with a twisted, sadistic smirk. "Look at my dear old friend," 𝒂𝒔𝒆 mocked. Philip flinched, the weight of their dark history pressing down. Dae gave a subtle nod. The signal. 𝒂𝒔𝒆 barked, "Enough talk, let the blood flow." "Wait!" Philip shouted. He threw open a heavy suitcase, revealing 250,000 𝒌 in cold cash. The arena went silent. Philip's voice rang out with newfound iron. "I'm betting everything on Dae." "He's lost his mind," the crowd erupted. They doubled down on 𝒂𝒔𝒆, desperate to take Philip's fortune. The bookies struggled to keep up with the tidal wave of bets. 𝒂𝒔𝒆 glared at Dae. "Your idea, brat." 𝒂𝒔𝒆's eyes burned with avarice. "If you want to donate your life savings, I'll gladly take them." The bell tolled. 𝒂𝒔𝒆 lunged like a starved beast. "Die, you worthless gutter rat." Dae danced back, his movements fluid as water. He's fast, but his technique is nothing but amateur brawling. Dae caught 𝒂𝒆's wrist midair, his grip like a vice. He prepared to deliver a bone-shattering elbow strike. 𝒂𝒆's instincts screamed. He tore himself away, gasping at the sudden, terrifying shift in the atmosphere. "Not bad, kid," 𝒂𝒆 hissed, dropping into a lethal combat stance. "You're actually a worthy sacrifice." 𝒂𝒆's face twisted into a demonic mask. "Time to show you the hierarchy of this slum." Dae just beckoned him. "Kill him, boss," the mob screamed. 𝒂𝒆 unleashed a thunderous roundhouse kick aimed at Dae's skull. Dae ducked, the wind of the kick whistling over his head. He countered with a punch that missed by a hair. "Unbelievable. They're moving faster than the eye can see." Philip watched, his heart hammering against his ribs. 𝒂𝒆 roared in frustration, trying to stomp Dae's head into the dirt. But Dae slipped away like a shadow. "Brawling is a waste of energy," Dae calculated. "It's time to end this dance." He lunged low. 𝒂𝒆 braced his legs, blocking the tackle with raw brute force. "You think a pathetic wrestler's move works on me?" But 𝒂𝒆's words choked in his throat as he was hoisted into the air. What is this monstrous strength?" Dae slammed him into the flaming oil drums. An explosion of sparks and steel rocked the entire arena. The crowd erupted. Was that strike bone-shattering? That skinny kid possesses the hidden strength of a monstrous beast. While Philip trembled for his fallen friend, Dae stood unfazed. The entire stadium fell into a stunned, breathless silence. This hunter is legendary. The gamblers cursed as their fortunes vanished while 𝒂𝒆 ate the cold, hard floor. Enraged by the mockery, 𝒂𝒆's eyes burned crimson. He clawed at the dirt, desperately refusing to stay down. Rising like a demon, a murderous aura enveloped him. 𝒂𝒆 stood trembling with a primal and bloodthirsty rage. Exploding with red mana, he let out a guttural roar. "I will never lose to a nobody like you." He lunged with god-tier speed, catching Dae off guard. Every strike carried the crushing weight of a falling mountain. Dae braced himself, feeling the devastating impact. This war of attrition was becoming a dangerous and deadly gamble. He recalled his uncle's wisdom. In a street fight, weight and momentum are the ultimate, final deciders. A powerful blow whistled through the air, but Dae blocked it effortlessly. 𝒂𝒆 had completely lost his sanity. Static shields wouldn't last forever. He needed a technique to bridge the gap between their massive power levels. He remembered his master's secret, the joint lock. Like a shadow, Day closed the distance in a heartbeat. He seized 𝒂𝒔𝒆 arms and vaulted high, slamming him down into a soul-crushing and inescapable submission hold. 𝒂𝒔𝒆 gasped for air, thrashing like a trapped animal. "Release me, you bastard," he shrieked in pure agony. Day's eyes remained ice cold. "Surrender now, or your next destination will be the morgue, little boy." 𝒂𝒔𝒆 gnashed his teeth as his ring flared with forbidden mana. He forced his broken body back upward. That artifact was a curse. The more power he drew, the faster his humanity would slowly wither away. With one final, decisive strike, Day silenced him. He snatched the cursed ring as 𝒂𝒔𝒆 finally collapsed. The arena erupted. The king had fallen. Was this mysterious hunter now the new ruler of the slums? "My life savings are gone," the mob wailed. They glared at 𝒂𝒔𝒆's unconscious body with murderous, hateful intent. Day knew his opponent wouldn't move for a week. He ignored Philip's approach, focused only on the exit. He marched to the betting booth and seized the prize money. "I will be taking what is mine now." The bookie trembled in fear while Philip watched, stunned. The atmosphere was thick with tension and pure greed. Suddenly, 𝒂𝒔𝒆 lurched to his feet, his arm dangling uselessly. "I am not weak. I have not lost." 𝒂𝒈 struck him square in the head. "You are a loser. Give us back our stolen money." Trash rained down on the fallen champion. To the mob, he was nothing but a useless, pathetic failure. 𝒂𝒔𝒆 snapped. Every face in the crowd looked like a mocking demon. His fragile sanity finally fractured completely. He grabbed a flaming barrel and hurled it wildly. "I will kill every single one of you," he screamed. Chaos erupted as the stadium transformed into an inferno. "Run for your lives. The lunatic has gone mad." Screams echoed through the smoke. 𝒂𝒔𝒆 laughed hysterically amidst the rising flames, finally feeling powerful once again. Then his strength vanished instantly. He collapsed into the fire. Day hesitated, calculating the risk of staying. Saving him was suicide. But then, Day saw a shadow moving through the thick, choking, and black smoke. It was Philip. Despite his own injuries, he was desperately trying to drag 𝒂𝒔𝒆 from the roaring blaze. Philip's body was too weak. Day appeared beside him. "What do you think you are doing, you idiot?" Philip offered a weary smile. "You came back. I knew you would not leave us to burn alive." 2 days ago, 𝒂𝒆 almost murdered him. Now, Philip was risking his life to save his own killer. Day sighed, hoisted the money, and helped push the wheelchair. Logic had no place in this burning hell. "Take all the money," Philip pleaded. "Just help me get him out of this nightmare safely and alive." "And what about you?" Day asked. Philip smiled as a warm, golden aura began to radiate from him. It was the mana of ultimate sacrifice. Why would anyone throw their life away for another person? "What is in it for you?" Day demanded. Philip replied, "I just do what my heart tells me." 𝒂𝒔𝒆 is my childhood friend. Protecting him is the only thing that matters to me right now. Day stood frozen, dying for a friend. He remembered the hungry children back in the dark slums. They would share their last crust of bread with him. They were a family of outcasts and misfits. His uncle had treated him like blood. In a world of monsters, they were his only true light. To repay a life, they spent their last coins on medicine despite their poverty. The reason, simple. Because we're friends. I almost grasped the true meaning of that bond, but it slipped away. It's too late. They're all dead. Back in reality, Des orders Philip to stay put. The fire hasn't reached here yet. Des strips his shirt, making Philip think he's gone insane. Des scoffs, shredding the fabric. Suddenly, he manifests magic, drenching the cloth in pure water. Philip's jaw drops in absolute shock. "Is that real magic?" Des confirms it with a nod. He hands it over. "Cover your face, don't breathe the toxins." Philip obeys, his mind reeling. Finding a mage seemed like a pipe dream. I thought magic was just a myth. Then it hits him. Philip turns. "If you have water, why not douse the flames?" "Mana isn't infinite, I'm no saint." Before leaving, Des asks, "What exactly is a friend?" "Shouldn't we escape first?" Des insists it's vital. Philip stammers, "Someone who acts kind." Des denies it coldly. "Friends are just people you know for a limited time, that's all." An invisible wall rises between them. Philip senses Des's chilling isolation. "You're wrong," Philip argues. Friends help unconditionally. They are the ones who catch you when you fall, no matter what. Philip's eyes burn with unwavering conviction. That's a real friend. Part 1 concludes here. Subscribe now